Good morning, all of you. Today we are going to discuss Anita Desai's Cry the Peacock, a manifesto of female predicament. The problem faced by the women in Indian society, which undoubtedly is marching ahead at the path of development, but still assigns traditional roles to the women. Woman has always been considered as a necessary to man. No independent existence has been allotted to her. Weak, passive, foolish, fat headed are a few of countless adjectives ascribed to her. Her biological features are connected with her destiny. Anita Desai's novel are manifesto of female predicament. Anita Desai, born Anita Mujumdar, she was born at 24 June 1937, is an Indian novelist and the Emerita John E. Burkhardt Professor of Humanities at the MIT. As a writer, she has been shortlisted for Booker Prize 3 times. She received a Sahitya Academy Award. Anita Desai is one of the leading voices who have given the inner description of the woman's inner world, her sensibility, her shocking frustrations, and the storm raging inside her mind. Cry the Peacock, published in 1963, is Anita Desai's first novel. It breaks new ground and is considered to be a trendsetter in feminist writing. Desai's concern with the emancipation of women is found page after page in her novels. The predicament faced by women's character in Cry the Peacock. This novel is primarily the story of Maya, the heroine, but it also contains many other female characters that represent different aspects of woman. Her preoccupation with the women's inner world, frustrations, and storm raging inside her mind intensify her predicament. To study the predicament of Maya, it is important to see her life as a structure between her father's house and her husband's. Both locations act as a reflection of her, an attractive figure nurtured by the values of her class. She also becomes a trait to that very system. Anita Desai portrays a hypersensitive and cultured Maya and dives deep into her trapped feminine psyche from childhood to her untimely death as a youth. She is victim of many social and psychological predicaments. Her social status affects her psyche to the extent that she becomes an easy victim of many known and unknown inner traumas. There is no denying the fact that Maya receives a comfortable upbringing. She has no shortage of material comforts, but the high intensity of pain she faces at mental level takes her to tragic end. Maya suffers from certain obsession, an astrologer's predicament of death of one of the two, her own or her husband's, after 4 years of marriage. Her obsession with death, her father fixation, and her marital discords are three strands around which the plot has been woven. Cry the Peacock engages the complexities of modern Indian culture from feminine perspective while highlighting the female predicament of maintaining self-identity as an individual woman. As Cassius says, I quote, women must write herself, must write about women, and bring women to writing, from which they have been driven away as violently as from their bodies. Unquote. So, writing the story of Maya is significant not just because she is driven away from the parental embarrasses, but also from her own body. So, one can find in Maya an assertion of her desire, a proclamation against societal odds, and a lament on the loss of the self. Being a housewife and having limited relationships in her 2 inches of every, Anita Desai is like Jane Austen and Virginia Woolf. She is not so much concerned with the external affairs as with the inner weather. She considers outer reality to be the least in comparison with the internal conflicts. Maya, Maya is born of an upper middle class Brahmin family. Having grown motherless, she was pampered by the father Rai Sahib. Although sensitive and well educated, she is treated as a child rather than a mature, willing to be heard and spoken to. She has been reared in a protective atmosphere. Her father tries to fill the loss of her mother and creates a fairy world full of dreams. This is the reason why he marries Maya to Gotham, his own middle aged lawyer friend. But both prove to be poles apart. She sought her guardian and protector in Gotham, but finds that in him understanding was absent and love was meager. Maya's predicament can be linked to the failure to find a refuge either in marriage or in family. The split in her personality results in her loss of belief in herself. Her obsession with the father figure and separation from the mother, along with her failure to identify herself with Gotham, has led to hetero-isolation. She is trapped with the fear of Albano's prophecy. She confines herself in a world of superstitions and is unable to do away with the constraints imposed by the Orthodox society, with its belief in horoscope and future telling. In the 4 years of her marriage, she is seen building this fear to such an extreme that it leads to an unexpected explosion. She aces her tension psychologically by thinking how Peacock stamps its feet and strikes its beak against rock, and how it seizes the snake to break its body to relieve its own pain. Anita Desai studies the inner life of her character, but she never allows them to forget their social and familial ties. Maya looks at her brother, father, and husband to save her from this psychological predicament and cries, "Father, brother, husband, who is my savior? I am in need of one. I am dying, and I am in love with living. I am in love, and I am dying." The quest of Desai's protagonist is not only one woman's quest, but hers is the heart-rending story. Neela, Gautam's sister, and her mother, and his mother, these two are the women who symbolically present positivity and strength. Neela has the ability to fight the odds which comes into her life. Her view of life as presented by the novelist is, I quote, "After 10 years with that rabbit I married, I have learned to do everything myself." Unquote. As far as Gautam's mother is there, she is more concerned with her social work than the crying need of lonely Maya, who asks her to stay for some more time with her. There are two more women in the novel whose presence is noteworthy, Pom and Layla, who are Maya's friend. Layla's marriage is a love marriage, and she had eloped with her lover, who is a consumptive. She faced all the vicissitudes of life and put up a brave fight as the wife of a patient struggling for life. She accepts her lot as her destiny and doesn't grudge or complain. She reacts violently when Mrs. Lal and other women at the party don't come up to her expectations. Pam is another character who faces the problems which are quite common in the lives of women in India. She lives with her in-laws under many restrictions. The complex waves of many do's and don'ts are there around her every time. Mrs. Desai through Pom elaborates how women have to live a sophisticated life and take permissions from to creep out for fear they will punch on you, ask you where you are going, when you will be back, why aren't wearing the jewelry they gave you. Anita Desai through Mrs. Lal's character want to show that a woman and her family is not considered complete and meaningful without the birth of a son. Mrs. Lal pretends to be well off with 4 daughters, but she longs for a male child. Even though we may glorify and rationalize daughters, yet daughters are considered a liability because of the evil of dowry in our society. Moreover, only sons are considered as true successors of their parents. The novelist elaborates how women in a male dominated society are sexually exploited and treated as commodity to be enjoyed through the cabaret girls in this novel. Women in Desai tends to make constant comparisons between their father's houses. In their search for a sense of fulfillment, women continue to rely on the house. Through Maya's character Anita Desai upholds a new vasta of feminist writing. Maya stands apart from all the women characters in the novel. She is the most interesting and psychologically mystifying among all Desai's female characters. She represents the class of women who silently suffer at the hands of men. Her actions and reaction may not always draw one's sympathy and can be dismissed as the useless thought of a luxurious mind. Her suffering, but the demands of the social changes put forth by the novelist cannot be ignored. The fashion of living away from the parental house, the mother living away from the children, and the increasing busy life are some of the fractions of changing patterns. The novelist has thus highlighted the female predicament in various aspects. She excels particularly in elaborating the miserable position of highly sensitive and emotional women tortured by negligence and loneliness. Certainly, the novel is about Maya, but all the secondary characters like Neela, Pom, Leila, and Mother, etc., contribute to the polytimbered voices of the women and the issues related to them. Works cited. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.